I had a 400 watt FTP before I was even a Cat 5. That was just the way it was.
Hello and welcome to episode 85 of the Virtual Velo Podcast, the show that bridges the gap between athlete and avatar, keeping it real in the world of cycling esports. Well, with my co-host Chris Schwenker and I, we have got a familiar face to many in the cycling esports world back with us today. Last time he was here, he was on his way to make his mark in Abu Dhabi and at home in the States. Now, well, he's headed back to Abu Dhabi again with unfinished business. When you finish 5th in the world at your debut, unfinished business is putting it mildly, really. Worlds is only days away now, and he'll be competing as the US national champion, which is just brilliant. It was a fantastic race, and I hope none of our listeners missed it. I know he wanted that jersey, and he went out to win that day. Well, there's another one, the Rainbow Stripes, on the line coming up very shortly. And Chris, he's not sneaking up on anybody anymore.
No, certainly not. No hiding in the cornfields anymore for Farmwatts. Yeah, this is it, Emma. The big dance, the day we and all of the racers like Hayden have been looking forward to for over a year. I'm excited to get the story from him and also break down some predictions and storylines with you.
Well, welcome back for your second appearance on the Virtual Velo Podcast, Hayden Pucker. It is great to have you here.
Happy to be here, and thank you guys for having me.
It's absolutely brilliant. But before we get into talking about what's coming up on the horizon, Hayden, for anybody who's not listened to and is interested in your background story, they can, of course, pop over to episode 51 and take a listen to you when you were here in September last year. But for those listeners who haven't listened previously and want to know a little bit more about you, tell us a little bit about where you are from, what your day job is.
So I'm from Wisconsin, basically in the middle of nowhere. And my day job is landscaping. So my parents started a business when they're like 20 years old, and they've been doing that their entire lives. And I've kind of just grown up in that area and kind of someday planning on taking over the company. So that's my day job.
Which is a very busy day job by the sounds of it, and a very physical day job as well.
Extremely physical. I actually just got a whoop strap in like the last 3 days of work without training. It's been at least 15 strain, which I thought was crazy. But yeah, usually like 20,000 steps a day and like 12-hour days, very common in the summertime. And then in the winter, it's more like shift work, but very busy.
Well, tell us also a little bit about your early sporting career, because that early sporting career was in judo, not cycling. And then you eventually made your way to the USA Cycling Training Center.
So that was actually Taekwondo I did. I started when I was in 5th grade. And I started really competing when I was in, I would say, late middle school to early high school, like 15 to 17. And I did that for a good amount of time. I actually did online high school, so I traveled around the country and compete. And then COVID ended up shutting the sport down for a year, and I bought a bike and fell in love with it and never turned back. And then I got invited to the Olympic Training Center through Strava. I met a pro named Robbie Ventura, and he tested me and saw my crazy numbers without any proper training and invited me to the Olympic Training Center for a track camp.
And tell us a little bit about how Farmwatts came about.
So at that Olympic Training Center, I met my first coach, Zach Gregg, and he has a podcast. And basically, I did a crazy workout he gave me. At the time, it was crazy, but it was basically like 3 times 15 at 485 watts. And then they just kind of kept my nickname on their podcast, talking about my crazy numbers and how I'm from Wisconsin in the middle of nowhere. So, and I really embraced it. I love it now. It's a great nickname.
Well, it certainly is a nickname that everyone knows about. Everyone knows Farmwatts. And I apologize, I screwed up the judo taekwondo distinction, and I teed that up for Emma, and I made her sound silly. So I apologize for that. She's a pro. I'm the one who screwed it up. It was me. So, as we've spoken about, everybody knows this is you're on your way to Abu Dhabi for the live event final. You probably took some time out of packing to talk to us today, and we really appreciate it. You will be on the sport's grandest stage with all of the best racers in the world. Are you excited?
I am. I'm very excited. I think I'm more excited just to meet everyone again and have that environment than the race itself. Like it's an honor to be there. And it's just cool to see all the people you race with every week in person again and make good memories. And I'm really looking forward to it because it's one trip a year we get as esports athletes. So it's good to make the most of it.
Yeah. So what is it exactly? Is it improving on that fifth place? Is it being in that electric environment? You've done it once already. You know how cool it was to be there with everyone looking at you and knowing you're the best in the world at what you do and trying to achieve the grandest of all trophies in the sport? Or is it the pride of representing your country? What's got you pumped about the event now?
It's being on stage and the adrenaline you get from that, and the dopamine and the adrenaline and everything combined. You'll never perform better than in person on a stage when people are watching you, from my opinion. At home, if I'm having a bad day, it's easy to be like, oh, I don't feel good. I just don't want to anymore. And then, you don't have the motivation to keep going. But on stage, it's always there. And I live for that feeling. So I'm very looking forward to just the adrenaline, being in the arena and competing.
Well, of course you are this year going to be competing as the current USA Cycling Esports national champion. And you won that jersey on My Whoosh last season. And you've recently already begun your campaign to repeat that for 2026. This year, the USA Nationals are going to be on TrainingPeaks Virtual, and we saw you racing there last weekend. How is your quest to retain the jersey going, and how much does it mean to you?
It means a lot. That title was really important to me, and I'm really happy that I achieved it last year. Nat'l put up a big fight, but I don't know. I'm nervous for this year just because of the game being so different. I spent like a whole week just trying to figure out corner, and I still can't really figure it out. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a lot of learning this year, and it's more than just power now. It's a lot of tactical. And I'm actually quite nervous to race my coach, Zach, because he's a tactical master and really good at strategy. So I think it's going to be really hard to get away from him this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that he won't be on the stage with you in Abu Dhabi this year. I know that he was a huge support for you, and that U.S. team last year really had a coup with the way that they handled stage one. But I'm very confident that you're going to be doing a great job. Before we get into all of that, I want to bring up a topic that pops up from time to time and give you a chance to share your point of view. Everybody knows you as Farmwatts, the country boy next door look, the pain faces while you're burying yourself like you did in Abu Dhabi, the big smile, the massive watts make you one of the more recognizable and popular riders, but they also are a lightning rod for criticism. I forget who said it because the podcasts in the space come and go so frequently, but someone claimed there are only two riders in the world who can do 500 watts for an hour, you and Filippo Ganna. Whether that's true or not, I'm not really sure, and it's kind of besides the point. It makes for a sensational headline. But I don't think it helps you or the sport still trying to make sense to people who don't understand the nuances. What do you say to people who criticize you and say there's no way your watts are real?
Okay, so watts don't equal speed. And that's my biggest argument, is that just because I can do 500 watts in a way that I do my watts does not make me fast outside. I'm not aerodynamic on the bike. I stand up the entire time and do high torque at 65 RPMs. For esports, it's strictly watts. That's all you're doing. When Filippo Ganna is going for the hour track record, he is not standing up at 65 RPMs. He's seated, spinning his legs incredibly fast. I can't do that for 3 minutes. That's not how I'm built. So I'm the type of rider. I have like these, I have giant legs with a lot of type 1 endurance muscle fibers. So they're very slow twitch. So what I've learned about myself is that I can just basically find gear that is just hard enough to where I don't get a crazy burn, and I can just slowly grind that out all day long. And it doesn't tax me just because of my type 1 fibers, where most guys are like type 2 also, and I don't have a good sprint. But basically what I'm getting at is I do my watts in a very weird way, leveraging my body weight, pulling up on the bars and standing out of the saddle. And it's not a practical way to race outside. You couldn't do that outside unless you're trying to climb. So you can't compare the two. It's a completely different sport, and it just shouldn't be compared.
And of course, I can't be the one that's criticizing you for that, because I've been an advocate of cycling esports being a unique discipline for, it's going on almost a decade now. But there are people out there that look at your real world results and say, this isn't the next coming of Filippo Ganna, right? What do you think is the reason why you have challenges out on the road? Because I know you've given it a whirl, right? You've had a couple gravel events this past year. You admittedly didn't live up to your expectations as far as the results go. And when people look at that and they look at your 500 watts indoors and then they look at what you're doing outdoors, they have a hard time making that connection. So tell me, what are the challenges that you have, and what is your future with chasing outdoor results?
So the challenges I face is, one of the biggest ones is I have a vision deficit in my right eye. Legally blind, I can hardly read. I was born with a cataract, and it's made it very difficult. Like, my parents, my dad wanted me to play football and all these ball sports. He signed me up for all of them in grade school, and I couldn't do it. Like I tried, but I sat the bench or I wasn't good. I'm actually amazed that I could do Taekwondo as well as I could. I guess I learned how to adapt when you like something enough, but my hand-eye coordination was never good. And riding on the road, it's like I can't see to my right very well. And I'm not confident being an inch away from the wheel. And my bike handling just isn't there. I can't see potholes as well as everyone else. It's made it very difficult. And then another thing I've struggled with is that I got recognized for my power in the first year of me competing. I had a 400 watt FTP before I was even a Cat 5. That was just the way it was. And then tried to fastly get to Cat 1, and I didn't know anything. And basically, when I was a Cat 4 to 5, I did it in one race. I rode away from the field and just lapped them, and that's how I did it. I got to the Cat 3 field and then realized that there's more to racing than just being strong. Like, I tried to, comprehend that, but, I never really did, I guess, and I didn't race a lot after that, and I only did, 2 half seasons. I did, some spring races, and then I stopped because I broke my arm at Unbound, and then did some more spring races the next year, and I stopped again to do esports. So, I didn't have long list of races I did. I just did some local crits. I've done one road race in the Cat 3 field, and then I got my Cat 2 eventually, and I just called it road racing. I don't want to do it anymore. I found more love in esports. For gravel, I thought I had more of a shot because I'm really good at endurance, especially ultra endurance. But if I'm being honest, I'm scared. I don't want to crash. I've crashed so many times at Unbound, and I've broken my arm twice now from cycling, the same arm with my scar right here. And it takes away from work too much. I can't work for 2 months, and I don't think it's worth it to me at this point. I don't want to. So when I'm doing these big races, I'm at the way back, or I'm trying to be as safe as I can. I don't want to be at the front fighting, elbowing for position. I'm not confident in myself enough to do that. So I get in a bad position always, and then you're never going to make it back to the front once you're in that position. And that's what happened at Trekka and all the other races I did.
Well, you're not the first one to come on and spoken that way about being apprehensive in races. We had Eiley Gardner, who was on the podcast, who, with the way that she climbs, you'd think that she'd be at the front of the GC battle in all of the major tours, right? She's quite possibly one of the greatest climbing talents of her generation. So there's certainly no shame in that. And being an esports specialist gives you the opportunity to shine in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, I love riding my bike outside. I still train outside, and I love going for KOMs and stuff. And I'll still continue to do races, but I think I'm at the end of my trying to become a professional gravel or road cyclist point in my life. I want to do esports now. I want to focus on it, have fun with it, be safe, maybe do some fun gravel races with my friend Dave, who's 55. He loves to do some great races. I might go back to Trekka and do it with him, ride together. That sounds fun to me, but I don't see a point in trying to chase results. Plus, it's expensive and it's not worth the risk. There's so much risk versus reward when it comes to gravel racing, and it just doesn't align with my goals in life.
Well, all I can say is thank goodness that we get to watch you focused 100%, Hayden, on cycling esports, because that's where we are moving to. And of course, with that World Championships in Abu Dhabi and the flights where you'll be heading out very, very shortly. Let's move on to that topic because we are really excited to talk about it. And this year's Worlds for 2025 is coming up on the 15th of November. It is only a week or so away, and you are indeed going to be flying out early next week. It's your second trip to Abu Dhabi, to the big dance. How is this one different? You said you were looking forward to this one more because of the social element and meeting everybody else. But is it different for you in any other way?
It's going to be different for the fact that Zach's not going. Really liked that last year. But I guess now that I've done it once, I know what to expect. I'm a lot less nervous and more just ready to do the job when I get there. And I don't feel the same pressure I did last year. Last year, I had this feeling that no one really believed in my watts or anything. Now I don't feel that anymore. I'm I'm pretty confident. Most people know that I'm legit and I can do what I do at home. So I'm really ready just to go there and do what I can to win the jersey or get on the podium.
So have you learned anything from last year's experience that you're going to take forward into this year?
I need to be more aggressive at the earlier sprint points. That was my biggest takeaway last year. I didn't go for that first sprint point last year, and I think that cost me the podium. So I'm not make that mistake again.
One way that things are different is that there's another young hotshot rider that's coming up with you. He seemed to come out of nowhere. I know that you talk about whether your watts are legit and proving yourself. He's got a lot to prove. And I'm curious as to whether that's on your radar. And we're talking about Pavel Skierski. I think I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. I know Emma says his name 20 times every Sunday. But it seemed to play out during the MyWish Championship in the under 23 category there. Is that on your radar? Is that a motivator for you?
Extremely. So he really did come out of nowhere. Like my championships, my biggest competition to me was Linden. Like I thought he was the guy I had to beat. And then I get like 4 or 5 days in and I'm like, I was actually on stage 5, I realized who he was. And I was like, wow, I can't drop this guy. Like I gave it my all. And I was like, who is he? Like I thought he was a cat too. Like how is this possible? And then as we progressed, it did finally break him in the stage 6 in the TT. But as the weeks progressed, he has just gone crazy. Like he's been setting power PRs every week. I see him on Instagram doing these crazy training sessions, and it's hard to see someone that is your age go from behind you to just like way up here so fast. And it was motivating. Now it's kind of like demoralizing in a way, but it is definitely a motivation. And I do think personally that if he does on stage what he does at home, he could possibly win it. He might be the only guy that can beat Jason just because of he's extremely smart and he knows when to go. His power is it's world class. He is incredible watt per kilo. So I'm very curious to meet him and see how he performs in person. Now, I do consider him a friend. I talk to him on Instagram quite a bit. He's a very nice guy. So that's also another thing. I believe him for the most part. So I want to see him do in person. Everyone reacts to pressure differently. So my shot at beating him is he doesn't do well with the pressure. So that's what I'm banking on.
I'm banking on the fact we've got 10 years of you two battling head to head like tennis rivals. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. I tell you, I too am looking forward to watching that, Hayden, and it is going to be absolutely brilliant. And yeah, we'll be watching closely. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the semi-finals because you obviously have had the chance to see the course, the 3 stages for the finals this year, because you raced them exactly the same format in those semi-finals on October the 3rd. You took 8th place on stage 1, the uphill chase race, 9th on stage 2, the points race, that race with 2 sprints and 2 climbs before that finish line. And then you took 6th on the final stage, the 8-lap sprint race. That's pretty consistent placing across those 3 stages, given that they are all meant to test something different in the riders. Were you pleased with those results?
For what happened on the day, I am. Because 2 days before I started feeling a little ill, and actually I'm still dealing with that now. It's been a really bad month for me. Really inconsistent training and good days, bad days, but it hasn't been great. But on that day, it was a craziest thing ever. I was getting ready to warming up, and then 2 minutes before the race, all my power went out. Like my fans turned off, my trainer stopped working, everything went out, and I was screaming. My mom was on the phone with the doctor, and I was screaming at her to reset the breaker and stuff, and it was madness. I got up and going 15 seconds before the race started, and my heart rate starting that race was already at 180 beats per minute. I was just panicking. So the fact that I could calm myself down enough to actually get a decent result on that stage was a miracle in itself. And then I also had 2 more dropouts during the race. It was a cursed race for me. So I'm just happy that I made it through that one, to be honest.
And that really, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I know we had a lot of talk in the studio about how many riders would go for the win versus how many riders would actually just make sure they've got a solid qualification, because it was the semi-finals, and the stage in Abu Dhabi is probably far more important once you've made a qualification position. But it is slightly different from last year when you were on that stage in Abu Dhabi. The 3 stages, there's some similarities, but there are some real differences between the racing this year versus the racing last year. Do you have a preference? What do you think of the changes that have been made?
I think they're great. Last year felt too easy, in my opinion. The first stage was 1 sprint, and then you had the second stage was 12 minutes. That was pretty hard, and then the third stage. But this year, I got done with the semifinals, yeah, and I was wow, I am cooked. And that is a good feeling to have after especially World Championship event. So I think they did good at making this year hard. Starting with a 20-minute FTP test is it's mean, and I love it. I'm there for it. So
I love that, because because there's also going to be the difference, isn't there, that there's only going to be 22 riders on that stage in Abu Dhabi, not the 170 riders that took to the start line in the men's semi-finals, which really plays differently because the majority of riders are going to score points at every opportunity. How do you see those stages playing out with far fewer riders?
A lot different, personally, because there's going to be, during semifinals, there's a lot of guys who are like hammering the front of the race in stage 2 to get those early points because they know it's on the shot. So I think it'll be a bit more calm, not like way more calm, but a bit more calm, which will help me out for sure. And like stage 3 at semifinals was chaos. Like, honestly, that course shouldn't have been how it was. Like, they should have cut out at least half the guys for that, because having 170 guys on a 1.5 kilometer circuit is just, you can't tell who's who, and it just made for very difficult racing. So I think stage 3 will have a very big impact on the only 20 guys for sure.
Yeah, I do. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I have a plan.
Excellent. Do you want to give us a little peek into that plan, or are you keeping it under your hat?
I got to keep that under my hat. I have a plan. It's a little ballsy, but I think it's my only shot to get on the podium this year. So,
Hayden, we wouldn't expect anything less from you, I'll tell you.
Nor do we blame you for not tipping your cap to us with this. But another major change this year from last year, and I know that everybody who's listening who knows me is just waiting for this question, is the UCI's revamped weigh-in policy. It's a controversial topic that casts doubt on the sport, and the UCI for the first time is taking steps to address it. I think this could also be another major storyline. The new rules tighten the weigh-in window from 10 hours to 4 and require athletes to pass a hydration test before weighing in. Ideally, in theory, it reduces or eliminates the potential performance gains from weight gapping. What are your thoughts on the new policy, and what is your approach to it this year?
I love the new policy. I think limiting weight cutting is fantastic. I'm not a fan of it at all. You can look at my weight right now. I'm the heaviest I've been all year. I don't think weight is nearly as important as people make it out to be. But I do have concerns with the new weigh-in policy, because I read the rule book and it's like, you can't have water or food in the weigh-in room 4 hours before the race. You can't have water or food, but everyone is quarantined until everyone passes. So my concern is that if someone tries to cut weight and can't pass the test, then are we all stuck there for hours waiting for them to rehydrate so they can pass? And then am I not able to take my bicarb? Am I not able to eat a proper meal 3 hours before the race? That's my only concern with it. I'm not sure how that's all going to work, because I know that there are guys who try to cut too much and don't pass. But other than that, I think that if everyone is hydrated and just doesn't mess with it too much, I think everyone will be fine. My approach this year is just going to be eat light and drink cold water all day and basically just do normal. Like, I'll probably have like a bagel for breakfast and then some gel for lunch. And then, I'll stay hydrated, but eat a little bit less like heavy food and I'll be good to go.
So you spoke about that there are going to be some athletes who aren't going to pass the test, that are going to be trying to push the envelope. Now we've heard the term athlete agency, and athletes basically taking accountability for themselves. Do you think that athletes should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies, even if it's unhealthy or unfair?
I do. I do think they should be allowed to. If they want to manipulate their weight, I think it should be allowed.
Yes.
Like, you're just messing with your own performance, in my opinion.
Yes, it's a tough one. There are two sides of the coin here, and it seems like you're taking both sides. So at some point, we're going to have to nail you down with that. But I also, it seems to me like you think that there are going to be athletes that are put in a position where they're going to have to take this test several times. Do you think that the policy, the way it's written now, is going to impact the results?
I don't.
You don't feel that there's anybody who potentially weight gapped last year that may not have the ability to do it this year? It's not going to place as well as they did last year?
No, I actually do not think that the results will be changed from the weight gapping this year.
Yeah, I hope that you're right. It's certainly something that I'm going to be watching very closely.
And I will add on. So, I personally don't condemn people trying to cut weight and have an unhealthy relationship with food to race. I don't agree with that. But I do think that it's free will. And if you want to, you should be able to. But I don't think that you should do that. So yes, I am playing both sides to it, but I think that if you're following the rules, you should be allowed to do what you can do. But I don't think that I don't suggest people going out and trying to lose tons of weight for a race like that. I don't think it's healthy. But Also, weight fluctuates a lot, especially for me. So, like, I can be anywhere from 85 to 90 kilograms very easily throughout the entire week. And I can be hydrated at both those states, but like, it just depends on water retention and like food weight in your gut. So, it's a really tricky situation that we deal with here because people will always try to make sure that they're at their lightest point of their day during the weigh in, obviously, because it's such a big impact on the race. But I guess what I'm saying is like chronically dehydrating yourself isn't a good idea. And I don't think you should be able to do that.
Yeah, so I kind of joking with you said that you're hedging your bets here with this, but in many respects, the platforms and the UCI have to do the same thing, right? They have to not only create a fair environment, but they have to look out for athlete safety to some degree. There is a bit of accountability with them as far as that's concerned as well. So, the fact that they're adding an educational module for you, I know you guys have a meeting on Thursday that's going to go over the weigh-in policy and the adverse health effects from that. And doing things to address, I think, is a huge step forward. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
Me too.
Okay. How about we change the taste and run down a few predictions? Because 15th of November is indeed looming. Hayden, I'm assuming you're planning for number one spot.
Honestly, I mean, yes, I would love to, but I think this year, like getting on the podium is my number one goal. That's like what I want to do.
Okay. Oh, you nearly had me there, Hayden. I was nearly about to, read you the right act and say aim high. But if I ask you, Hayden, do you have predictions as to what you think will happen? Okay, Hayden Pucker, what are your predictions for the 2025 Cycling Esports World Championships?
I think Jason Osborne's going to win. Like, I fully believe that. Like, stage one suits him so well. He's just going to just destroy everyone, like 40 extra points and everyone on stage one. And I don't think there's anyone else in the world right now that can touch his numbers, his watt per kilo. And that guy, I know him, and he sets his mind to something, he's going to do it. And then I think second could either be Paul or Vink. I'm not exactly sure yet. It's like still up in the air. I don't know. But I think third, so my prediction of who's going to do like be in that contention for the podium, because it's really hard to say who you think is going to win it. I think it's going to be Ali, Vink, me, and Paul. I think are like the most contenders for the podium this year on the format.
Do you agree, Chris?
Well, he left out that there's another whole field of participants in this race as well, but I'll
that's
go
true,
over
but we'll get there.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I can do the females too. Yeah.
All right, well, so I do agree with Hayden with Jason. He's proven himself, and if he's going to lose that jersey, someone's going to have to peel off his back. And I think that the person that could do that is Vink. I think that he was kind of really feathering the throttle in the semifinals. But I'm not saying that he's going to win. I have Osborne for first, Vink for second. Then there's a whole host of riders that for third. I would say Ollie Jones, Bjorn Andresen is right up there.
I forgot about him, totally.
Leonard Tugels, I think, is peaking right now. I didn't put Pavel Skarski up there because he hasn't proven himself. I just think that he needs to. I'd love to see Lionel back on the podium again this year. That'd be pretty amazing.
Me too.
Casper Bormans has only raced one esports race in his life, and he made the podium. He's going to be back for his second ever esports race.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, you can't really count him out. Who knows what he could do, right? It's amazing. And just also a heart pick along with Lionel would be Josh. I could see Josh uncorking something because I think that the course suits him, and he's a real smart, heady racer. So I think it would be pretty cool if he was able to break through there.
We're going to need a really big podium in the men's race then.
Yeah.
It's tricky. There's so many guys that I think have the ability to be third that it's hard to say who's gonna really do it. So I think it really comes down to, I do think you're right on first, second being pretty set in stone. I do think that they're gonna be the two top steps. I think it'll be really a fight for third place on like 10 different guys.
So we talked about Jason Osborne there around defending that World Championship jersey. Can Kate McCarthy be as dominant and defend hers?
Absolutely. I mean, look at her all year long. I mean, I watch like all the SRCs in the morning before I race, I'm like just hanging out, and she's always winning. So I think I saw her take some breaks this year and stuff too, and like take a little off season. And I think she's smart and has done it right. I think she's going to repeat it for sure.
I think that there was no surer bet in cycling esports than that Kate. I'll put my house on it that Kate will repeat. Hopefully not put a ton of pressure on her, but I know that she's also super mentally stoic, so I don't think that it would put much pressure on her or change her things. But yeah, I think that that's going to be a sure thing.
So Hayden, what about the rest of the women's race? What are your predictions there?
I want to see Gabby win it. But I think Kate's too unbeatable. But I think Gabby will be second again, unfortunately. I know she doesn't want that, but I think she'll be second again. And then I can't lie, I'm not really familiar with the rest of the females, but I know there's this new girl that like has been doing really good lately. So is it like Holcroft or something? I don't know her name, but I know she got second place last SRC. I think she could be a good contender also.
Yeah, so you're talking about Maria Holdcroft, who's on my list of possible contenders for the third step of the podium from Great Britain.
Yep.
But we also have Merle Bruni, who's back after another World Championship performance in the duathlon, right?
Yeah.
We have Francesca Tomasi from Italy,
Ooh,
who's really been, she's another come out of nowhere racer.
I think Elise can do it from the USA. I think she has a shot.
She had a great semi-final.
She did.
Yeah, she did. She
And
had
then
a
she
great
went to
semifinal.
Hawaii, didn't she? She went to Hawaii after the semi-finals, and now, that's going to be a great one to watch too.
Yeah, she went off to Kona, and then when she does some esports specific training, I think that she had a pretty good shot to be a dark horse. I think that Jackie Godby, if everything goes right for her, that'd be an incredible comeback story. I would really be rooting for her to do that. And I think Mika, if she can get through that first stage, I think that she'd do pretty well in the second and third stage. That's who I have fighting for the third step of the podium, which will be really crowded, just like in the men's field.
Yeah, I want to see a USA person on that podium. So really hoping for Elise. I think she could. She does some crazy things, and she can pull through. I think, and she's really used to high competition.
Yeah, I agree. And there's one person that I forgot who would be another person who I would love to see up there is Kristen Kolchinski.
Yep.
And that first stage is really going to be right in her wheelhouse. And if she can get through that with enough in the tank to compete in the sprints, which she's really not suited to, but I know she's been doing a ton of targeted training. That'd be great if she was able to break through because she's been there so consistent in the sport for so long. It would be a great way to reward her for everything she's done.
She might be like the GOAT of female esports. I've known about her since forever, before I started. It would be cool to see her. I think it'll come down to if she can get points early on stage 2, kind of like me. That's going to be the make or break point for her.
It's a big team of athletes from the USA heading over, isn't it? With 5 women and, if my maths corrects me, it's 2 men. So 7 of you in total. So you just did your maths as well, and I saw the brain whirring, which is great.
It is early in Wisconsin. We have to give them that.
That's very true. But it is a good story. I mean, of course, we spoke to Jackie, didn't we, Chris, not very long ago, and that's one phenomenal comeback story.
Absolutely. She, unbeknownst to her, was racing last year with a benign tumor in her pituitary gland. Basically, she had a brain tumor that she was racing with, and she was lucky enough to identify it mainly because of the medical knowledge that she has of herself. And she had the surgery and she's recovered. And it's really pretty amazing also because she had a major technical problem in the semifinals and had to battle back from like 75th place back into the top 20. So yeah, it would be really pulling for her to have a great result. And then there's also, I know that you've been following the story very closely, Emma, of Minna Koistinen, who had a baby during the off season and has been a huge advocate for training while pregnant and being able to embrace that and making it very clear to female athletes, whether they're elite or amateur, that being pregnant or having a child isn't the end of your sporting career. That would be a really great story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who is interested in that story, do check out Minna Koistinen's social media on Instagram, because she has absolutely documented from qualifying from the World Championships for 2024 last year, having to withdraw on doctor's advice, and then coming back and training post-pregnancy to qualify for the Worlds this year. And she has documented everything. And if you're interested in that, please do take a follow from Minna Koistinen on social media, because it's a phenomenal story. Anybody else you two are looking forward to watching race? Well, Hayden, you won't be. You might watch afterward on the show. You don't want to be watching too closely. You need to be concentrating on what you're doing. But anybody else who's on the start sheets that you think, that's an interesting one?
Well, one that wasn't going to be there is as far as I'm concerned, is the GOAT in the men's field, and that's Lionel Vujasin.
Oh, yeah.
He had to get a wild card, and the circumstances, and I think I can talk in fairly general terms about what happened. I think Lionel will be okay with this. But after the event last year, he received the prize money for the event. There was a dispute there with the National Federation, and the Belgian national esports team coach was basically kind of blocking him from participating in the the semifinals and the finals. So fortunately, the head director for Belgian cycling, Natalia Kalwert, she intervened and authorized the UCI to provide him with a wild card. So he's going to be racing. It's kind of like a second chance thing. It would be awesome for him to capitalize on that second chance and get onto the podium. I think it'd be great.
He is flying right now, and I've been talking a little bit. He's a great guy. I was really upset when I found out that he couldn't come this year because of what the Belgium team did. So I'm super stoked that he got a card finally.
And there was also Daniel Turek, who was poised to advance, and then he kind of like fell off the radar in the third stage. I don't know whether you realized that, Hayden, but he got a goose egg in the third stage, and everybody was wondering what happened to him.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what all happened with him, to be honest.
Yeah, from what I understand, there was a resistance dropout in his trainer, and I spoke to the people over at Elite, and they said they identified it and they sent out a patch for it. And apparently, I think somebody told me that it had to do with support of Zwift virtual shifting, which is kind of ironic that it caused a problem for Daniel. The UCI did go against their policy to not allow semifinal riders to get wildcards to make it right for him. I think the thinking was that he was going to make it, and he didn't make it because of this technical issue. I know there's a lot of gray area there, and I see Emma looking at me like, but he is going to be. I see you doing the same thing, Hayden. So yeah, I know it's a tough one. It's a real tough one, but it's good for Daniel Turek anyway.
I'll comment on it. Like, I like him a lot as an athlete. I do. And he's really good. But he did get 26 in stage 2, I believe. I looked back. So I don't know if he would fully qualify. I wouldn't say he had a guaranteed shot at it. He still had to get a lot of points in stage 3 to qualify. So there is a gray area there. But the resistance issue, in my opinion, has nothing to do with Zwift because I've been dealing with it since my WISH championships. And what I did is I learned about this issue, and then me and Elise talked about it a lot, actually. We figured out a fix for it. And she told me that I have to unplug and replug my trainer back in immediately, and then it fixes it. And it did. And it happened to me on training rides all the time. So what I did was I took my extension cord and I put it up by my fan, like right by where I put my food and stuff. So I could like unplug my trainer, replug it in, like I'm reaching for a snack, like super fast and super easy. And that's how I've been riding my trainer for ever since then. But the new update Elite put out has fixed it. So I have not got any issues since. But for a while I was, and I had 2 resistance dropouts during Worlds too. So I just think it's a common thing, and it's a mechanical. So I think that if you know about issues and you train with the equipment that you ride on, just like outside, I think you should be prepared. I think you need to, it's almost like your responsibility to know about issues that could happen, test it out, and then be prepared to fix it if it does occur.
That's an interesting take. And it's unfortunate that we have to be in that position. But I guess you're right. If you have a wonky wheel and there's a problem with the bearing, it's up to you to fix it. I guess I have a hard time grasping it's like mechanical with a trainer. It's like getting a flat on the road. Sometimes that's a tough one for me to kind of make the connection with. But I guess you're right. You have to be accountable as an athlete. But
well, the thing is like, at least for me, like I've done so much to like prepare for everything I've done. Like I went out and bought a $2,000 laptop, and then I got hardwired in because I was like, this is gonna be more reliable. And then it turns out that my WISH wasn't running well on it, and I was getting crashes on Zwift and like all these issues. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna invest in better Wi-Fi and use my iPad Pro, which has no issues because I've actually never had an issue with my iPad Pro, knock on wood. So it's kind of like this thing where you really need to think about and prepare for all the races just like you would outside. You have to know and trust your equipment is going to work well. And it's always a risk. Like you said, you could be at Worlds outside, have the best legs of your life, have like a perfect race away, and then you get a flat tire and your race is over. It's how sports work. You never know what's going to happen. And yeah, I think just being prepared is what you have to do.
I was prepared to see Los Adigis. She was on the wild card list. I know you also, Emma, were looking forward to that. We would have had her in our predictions, I know. And from what I understand, her Lidl Trek team didn't give her the okay to do that, which I guess I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, that it's a tough one for the pros, right? Because you see somebody like Los who, she got her start in esports, but now that she's a pro, she comes back to esports. The pro peloton's going to just assume that she's going to win. And if she comes and beats up on a bunch of esports athletes, then it's kind of like an empty victory for her. But the flip side is, if she was to lose and then go back to the peloton, it might be a tough spot for her to be in. So I think that having those crossover athletes, I think there's still a lot to be done there to eliminate the barriers that we still have.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we've talked to a number of guests, haven't we, Chris, over the last 12 months, who focus on 2 or more disciplines. We talked about Merle Brunier, the world champion in the long distance duathlon again this year. She too taking a wild card because of her competition in Hawaii at the Ironman during the semi-finals. And I think a lot of riders have talked, haven't they, about trying to balance an esports season with a road season and which takes dominance at which point in time. And it's always an interesting balancing act.
There's a huge storyline that I think is perhaps more important than even rider legacy. And this is for the sport itself. We had Jacob Fraser, the esports coordinator, on with us a couple episodes ago, and he said our main focus this year is going to be around the broadcast product. That's an area that nobody felt was delivered extremely well last year. And we had Matt Smithson also, who came on and said, we will get the broadcast right this year. I think that after being in the arena and experiencing that and coming back and listening to people who had seen the broadcast and didn't really get the same experience, for somebody who's a fan, I'm a fan first before a journalist in the space. It kind of seemed as almost like a lost opportunity to create another fan base, because it is the biggest event in our sport. And I'm really looking forward to this event being the showcase that gets some fringe fans involved and helps build up that fan base. And I'm really looking forward to that being something that we walk away from and say, you know what, they did nail it here.
I think the one thing they can do is not have it 6 hours long, maybe break it up more. Because I actually, a lot of my family watched it and they put it on the TV and they didn't like that whole thing of it. But also, they need to just explain the race a little bit better, maybe before it even starts. And maybe also show kind of like how you guys do SRC, I guess, would be a better way of doing it. Like maybe show the race and then the people riding at the same time, instead of just one or the other. Because I guess it was hard to follow along last year. At least that's what I was told.
We always end the podcast, Hayden, with a big picture question. And with the world's right around the corner, let's stay on focus. Cycling Esports World Championship started in 2020. And for an emerging discipline still trying to define itself and gain traction, they are evolving each year. What does this World Championship mean for the sport? And what needs to happen for the event to move cycling esports forward within that broader cycling landscape, do you think? What are your thoughts around where cycling esports is going and how relevant the World Championships is to get there?
What needs to happen is, number one, the broadcast needs to be better, and it needs to be more view-friendly, and it needs to have more sponsors on it, and it needs to be pushed out to more people. And kind of how Swift Games was on GCN, that was a big step, I think, for cycling esports. I think something like that for the World Championships also. Also, we need, I guess, the weigh-in to be more legit. I think that the sport needs to get to a point to where riders are being weighed in real time on the bike. I think that's the only way where it's going to be 100%. People are going to start really buying it, I guess. Everyone will just be negative about the weigh-ins no matter what. There's always going to be a loophole and people are always going to find a way to complain about it. It's the way it is. I don't know. I mean, I think that the live finals are good and they need to continue to happen at least once a year, but I think we need more of them. And I do think that it's a good stepping stone for the sport in general. I'm excited for it. And I think that the more live events that we have, the more the sport will grow and more people will start recognizing it as a real sport instead of just this made up discipline.
Hayden, we wish you all the best on November the 15th. Good luck. Enjoy that World Championships. And I know you'll absolutely give it your best on stage.
I will. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So you can subscribe to the Virtual Velo Podcast on your favourite podcast provider and, of course, on YouTube. You can follow me, Emma Martin, on Instagram at biking_Emma. And you can follow Chris at the Zamunique. You can catch up with me putting words to the action this weekend on the My Whoosh Sunday Race Club. Last one before the World Championships. And, of course, tune in to those World Championship finals on November the 5th because the race is going to be phenomenal in both the women's and the men's category. It is the place to be on the 15th of November. Head over to thezamunique.com and please become a member of the Escape Collective to join the conversation and support independent cycling esports journalism. We do have and will have some more interesting guests from the world of cycling esports joining us. We're excited to see who will be here next. And thank you to Hayden Pucker for joining us today and to you, our listeners, for listening. Chris, we'll remind you to please take care of your heart get coronary calcium scan. Me, as ever, I'll tell you to enjoy your riding. Stay safe. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.